performing to the maximum that we could. If you look at the vast majority of our people, they are left outside the economic mainstream. And everybody is happy with that. They'll give you all sorts of reasons and excuses. But the vast majority of our people are outside the economic mainstream, which is why South Africa today, in my opinion, should be a $1 trillion country in terms of its GDP. I mean, as far as 2014, it was already at around $400 billion in terms of its GDP. 2014, guess what it is now? Still around $400 billion. Why is that? Because you see, if you can read the past, since 2018, 2019, this country has not been growing. I mean, 1%, 2%, we haven't been growing. Even Treasury itself is saying that we won't be growing by more than 1.67% right up till 2026. And they are working on how do you grow an economy where people are growing faster than the growth rate of our people is growing much faster than the rate of growth of the economy. How are we going to sustain this? How do we expect us as a people to really, I mean, look at the continent. The continent on average is growing at around 3 to 5% as a continent. But South Africa, not more than 1.6% now. So if you think about this, there's something grossly lacking with our macroeconomic policy. And for some reason, we seem to be loath to change this. And this has an impact also, because other people coming from outside the country, they come to South Africa, and they see opportunities. There's a lot of opportunities in this country. But sometimes only if you have resources to be able to exploit those opportunities. So I'll make an example. A Nigerian bank called Access Bank came to South Africa a couple of years ago. And they bought Bank of Athens, which is down the road here. And now they have bought Bidvest Bank as a way of growing into South Africa. I was telling the powers that be that I had access to that Access Bank must not make the mistake of trying to be a South African bank. Access Bank must be Access Bank as it has been around the continent. And that is what is going to make Access Bank succeed in this country. Because the moment it lets these guys that they have bought come to the fore and be the ones that lead its policies, it's not going to make any difference. It's going to be one of the many, and it's not going to make any difference if you don't vote. Because you ask yourself one question: these countries, these companies, these banks that Access Bank has bought, why do they have to buy them? They had reached their maximum potential. They couldn't go any further with their processes and strategies, right? So they were compared to yourself. Now, if you come in and let the very same people that had reached the ceiling dictate how you grow, what's going to happen to you? So sometimes, and I was saying this because as a businessman, I have noted that we lack of access to funding for Africans in particular is a big issue here. And sorry. And when my company, which I was hoping that at some point they will just play the video so that you can see what I'm talking about. When we built this platform, which is a fintech platform, to try and do financial inclusion and market access for the underserved markets of this country and the continent. We went everywhere to try and ask for funding. Not even, in fact, before we asked for funding, we asked for partnership in terms of our existing banks to give us what we call a bank sponsorship. All the South African banks that we have approached, all of them, without fail, they said no to us. Not because we don't qualify, we had everything they would need to enable us to acquire the bank sponsorship. They gave us all sorts of excuses. Guess who is the bank that gave us a bank sponsorship within a month of asking? Access Bank. Why is that? Obviously, they are hungry. They are new. They want to grow their deposit base in the country, and they are looking for partnerships. And therefore, entities like us that could act as a distribution point for them to access deposits and grow their book is quite key. So that's a very important aspect. But when it comes to products in the market, to be able to get people access the funding, that becomes the issue. This is where I was saying to them, do not do business the same way the South African banks are doing, because you can't outcompete them in their area of competence. They've got an existing brand, they are here, they are well known, they've got big balance sheets, they've got big branches, they've got everything that we don't have. The only way you can succeed is to adopt guerrilla warfare. You can't fight them in a straight one-on-one military. No, you can't. You have to turn this thing and put it to your area of competence, your strength. Not in their area of strength. You're going to lose. I hope whoever I spoke to passed the words, because I can tell you, if they continue the way, because you can see, I'm a customer of theirs, in as much as I'm a customer of Absa. I can see that which way they are inclining to go, and they're trying to assimilate. They're trying to become acceptable. And I think the minute they go and do that, they become one of the many. They don't understand that. So, the one reason why I agreed to do this talk at this late hour was because I felt that we need to share our challenges with others that are also in a similar position. I'm not sure if the guys are ready. Here's the approach. I want to show you, it's a short video. It's about how we want to assist SMEs, in particular things like Spazashop, to comply and to be able to run their businesses and come to the digital age and actually become pool their resources together and enable them to be able to fight the big boys and the others who are currently giving them a run of their money. We do so using technology. And when you see what we have built, and then you ask yourself, how is it that we, with the capability, and by the way, when I say what we have built, this is something that we have built here in South Africa. We don't have Indian developers doing things. We have our own people that are here, that are building this kind of solution. Young, black, technology people that are capable. And you ask yourself, why is it that we, with the kind of what I was going to show you, are struggling to access additional funding in this country? If we are struggling, what about the rest of the other people? And it's not because of the fact that there is a challenge or anything to that effect. It is really because of the way the system is structured. It is exclusionary by nature. So, sorry, I'm busy talking, trying to see if I can get to a point where, are we winning there? Okay, just 1 second, because I think it will give I will send quickly. Because I had sent it together with my presentation, but somehow it's not showing. Just 1 second, please. Okay, I've managed to send again the video separate from the itself. Are you ready? Okay, while they are busy checking, I will talk to
Product listing shows available.
okay. Right. It does look like they are winning, I hope. In the meantime, maybe if I could just just give you a sense of what is it that we are doing. My company is Tafari Capital, and from the name, we started Tafari a couple of years back, and we were a group of African entrepreneurs, a number of different people. There was 26 of us when we started, and as we speak now, we are about 193, and we are actually about to open up opportunity for additional investors to come on board and become part of this journey that we are undertaking. And as I said, our mission really is to be able to introduce financial inclusion, market access, and opportunity creation for the underserved And the approach that we took was when we realized that we as a people, I think Ndatemona and I kept talking about together we can win if we work and put our heads together. This is part of exactly what is it that we wanted to achieve. We kept saying that we need to work together as a people, pool our resources, pool our strengths, and through that we can enable ourselves to be able to bring ourselves out of the current challenges that we currently are. Even with the challenges of us not being able to access funding from the government institutions, which normally somehow, for some reason, depends on who you know, not what you know. If we were to do something ourselves, we feel that we could be in a stronger position to be able to unlock the strength of what is inherently within us. I make an example. I'm not sure how familiar you are with AfriForum and Solidarity. For a lot of people, I think it's a swear word, those names. But they have opened up a sort of an institution of technology in Pretoria, which is worth about 300 million that they put together themselves. And they are training their own people in their own institution that they have built. And this is through small monthly contributions that they have made amongst themselves to be able to do this. They are now in the process of, they've just turned the soil on a project of 2.4 billion where they're building their own university. Same thing, just a group of people coming together, pooling their resources, and actually doing something for themselves on the ground. What is stopping us from doing the same thing? The other day I was making an example and I'm saying, COSATU, I don't know if he still has the 2 million members, but imagine if COSATU was to ask its 2 million members to contribute 100 rands a month. That's 200 million rands a month that they would have. What can you do, what can't you do with that kind of money? You could put together and buy Pick n Pay, buy anything in the stock exchange and become a majority shareholder. If you've got 200 million a month, you can leverage that to 2 billion and you can purchase stocks and buy some of these institutions that are here in Sandton for black people to become sustainable majority shareholders. What is the trick? The trick is pooling our resources together. It's all about numbers. It's a numbers game. It's a numbers game, and this is why we are saying we have to try and, okay, eventually. Can you get the volume up, please? It's playing, but there's no sound. So, in a nutshell, what you're going to be seeing here is what we call iChankura, and those of you who know what iChankura, Machankura is, we're talking electronic funds, right? Electronic cash. And we've built a retail solution, which actually is a digital platform that is designed to transform the informal and small to medium retail sector by providing access to capital pooling, transparent order management, in-app financial services, supply chain integration, and we use this through leveraging blockchain to make sure that our transactions access lower costs, access credit, and participate in a more efficient economy. So, one of the key drivers of our platform is, if you're familiar with the Stokvel concepts, it's where people who know each other come together and they pool their resources towards a particular aim. And that's called a centralized Stokvel, right? So what we've decided to do was to adapt that concept that people are familiar with and put it what we call a decentralized common platform, whereby all the stores that are on our platform can pool their resources together, pool their ordering, aggregating that demand, send, instead of one store sending one order, we have 100 stores that are pooling the same order of potatoes together to the suppliers. Definitely the price that that store will get is different to the price that you will get when you have aggregated that demand and your supply is high. And at the same time, we are also allowing people to put together resources within the same platform to be able to contribute almost as if you're contributing to a stock fair. We generate our own income that we're going to use to fund our own income within the same platform. Just as we are generating income from Stokvels that we do, but with the challenge being that we do this, and at the end of the year, like now, we go and buy and eat and start over again next year. What we're trying to do is to utilize the same concept, but make it possible for people to invest those resources in their businesses instead of eating the money at the end of the year. It's a simple concept, but it's something that we are all familiar with, where we are aggregating our common resources for a common end. If we can get that done properly, I think we can be able to achieve something that even those that are trying to deny us access will find it difficult, because by pooling those resources, and I'm sure you're all familiar right now that 50%, every year, South Africans save almost 50 billion rand in Stokvels annually. What do we have to show for that 50 billion other than nice party packs at the end of the year? How can we access that money to be able to create a sustainable investment that, instead of eating the capital, which is what happens at the end of the year, you invest it, and then at the end of the year, you actually take out the interest, and you eat the interest. Imagine what is the interest of 50 billion, right? And then you distribute that, and then you have the same money go to the next year, and you keep contributing. That 50 billion becomes 100 billion, becomes 150 billion, and before long, you have created a huge sustainable pot of cash that you can use to fund yourselves. You don't have to wait for somebody outside to fund you. Is there a problem, guys? Maybe what I can do is, because I couldn't send it. I sent it on WhatsApp, and I didn't send it on. So the whole concept is based on our ability to pool our resources together. And struggle. South Africa, when it comes to ease of doing business, is very Eurocentric in its approach, in its structure. And because of that, it doesn't take into consideration the needs of the native people, us. It has imported models that we work in Europe and the laws and everything, and they put it here, and it does not suit us, which is why, for example, when government put together a fund of 200 billion, only 14% of the intended recipients were able to access those funds. Why? Because our people could not be able to access those funds because the requirements were not suitable for our people. They were not talking to what our people are able to do. And it's a big struggle. And so you can imagine that as a business that is trying to survive in a relatively hostile environment, how are you able to sort this out? Can I suggest something? I don't know if we could take a break and maybe we could have another speaker come and speak about this while I prepare and make sure that we are able to do this properly, because right now there seems to be a bit of a challenge. I'm not quite sure what's happening. I don't know the MC here. Guys, even though I love technology, it looks like it's failing us from time to time. So I've been asked to close, and maybe we can find another time to be able to do the presentation and show exactly what is it that I wanted to present. But in closing, I think it's important for us to understand that as a people, we have agency. We don't always have to wait for government to do things for us. Government is supposed to be there to be an enabler. If it fails to enable, it doesn't mean we give up and fold our hands. We have to take charge and find ways ourselves. I mean, just before I finish, a lot of countries in the continent do not have state-funded pensions. People survive. And sometimes one wonders whether having more results in what we call the disadvantage of advantage. Because when you are advantaged in a particular way, there are certain things you end up not doing, and you end up becoming disadvantaged. And I think the fact that we in the country have this situation where a safety net is put in place for our people, it's kind of difficult for a lot of us to actually take the initiative and do things ourselves. So I would like to finish off by saying, let us go back to ourselves. Look at what is it that we are strong at. And despite what the government or the lack thereof that support, see how we can use that to strengthen ourselves and to actually make it possible for us to achieve what we need to achieve. I am truly sorry about the presentation, but I'm hoping that even though that didn't happen, you may have one or two ideas about what we're saying. At the end of the day, unless and until we take advantage of the strength that we have as a people, which is numbers, we are not going to be able to unlock the potential that is available to us. Thank you very much. Oh.
section is where retailers run their daily operations. Here, they can access point of sale, buy stock directly from trusted suppliers, manage stock levels, request credit, and track their orders in real time. Each product listing shows available stock, order quantity,
Tech team,
and simple ordering
Doctor is
buttons,
asking if you can
making
kindly
the
restart the
process fast
video.
and transparent. What makes this unique? Welcome to the Ichankura Retail Solution. At the top of the dashboard, you'll see the retailer details, showing the store owner's information, contact details, and membership status. This ensures that every retailer's profile is clearly managed within the system. Next, on the right, we have the Smart Account. This is the retailer's main digital wallet for deposits and withdrawals. It's linked to the grants account, where private sector or government funding can be transparently dispersed, and to the capital pool allocation, which provides retailers with proportional access to pooled funds for stock purchases and affordable credit. Alongside this, you'll find the capital pool account, showing the retailer's contributions, available balance, and credit eligibility. Scrolling down, the retail management section is where retailers run their daily operations. Here, they can access point of sale, buy stock directly from trusted suppliers, manage stock levels, request credit, and track their orders in real time. Each product listing shows available stock, order quantity, and simple ordering buttons, making the process fast and transparent. What makes this unique is the integration of all these features into a single portal, combining financial tools, stock management, and supply chain visibility. Retailers can easily see their balances, order goods, and track deliveries, all in one place. The Ichankura Retail Solution empowers retailers by lowering costs, providing access to affordable credit, and digitizing their day-to-day operations, helping them grow sustainably within the Ichankura ecosystem.
Let's hear it one more time for Dr. Thabo. Thank you so much for that session. Chatting all things of driving business growth in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, today is also a very special day as we are joined by phenomenal women. I have a panel of women leaders joining us today to discuss women leadership and also women economic inclusion, I beg your pardon. But before we get into that session, I have the gorgeous Luyanda Zwane, who is a Miss South Africa, first runner-up, and she's also an actress and an entrepreneur. She starred in my favorite series, Shaka Ilembe. Let's give her a round of applause. Please give her a nice warm welcome. She'll be giving us a young speech before we get into our first session of our panel discussion.
Not to do any injustice to the MC, I am Luyanda Zuma. That mistake happens a lot because I do have a colleague called Luyanda Zwane, so sometimes there is a confusion around there. So firstly, I'd just like to introduce myself. I am Luyanda Ntlelo Zuma. So that might be foreign to some people, but those are just my clan names. And I am an actress by profession, fresh on up from Miss Africa, and a young entrepreneur who's trying to step into her power within the creative economy. I've done several other things, but I don't think I'm going to get into that because I'm going to stay here for a very long time. So today I have been tasked with the topic, reimagining Africa through youth-driven creative expression. Now this is the power of performing arts and building a creative economy. So just to get through the formalities, good morning distinguished guests, fellow creatives, if there are any in the room, young leaders and visionaries. So when I actually got this invitation, I thought, whoa, are they really trusting me with this topic? Especially after just listening to all the amazing speakers who stood here today, I'm just like, chances of me being the youngest speaker is really, really high because I am only 23 years old. Well, I'm actually 24 now, my birthday is on the 3rd of December. So I guess I've grown a bit. So, and I also thought, well, of course, because young people are now change makers. We don't wait for permission anymore. We create the moment. So just a little bit about my journey. So before I just speak about the creative future, I want to share part of my own journey. I didn't grow up believing that I belonged in the creative space. I grew up in a world where my complexion was questioned a lot, only because when it came to role models, I'd see people who didn't look like me being more represented in spaces that I wanted to step into. And I found myself shrinking myself and believing that in order for me to even be deemed beautiful, I had to fit into a certain bracket of what everybody celebrated when I was growing up. And in as much as many people may say, but yeah, you were very young, but that's the thing, I've always just looked up to role models who were a lot older than me and wanted to put myself in those type of spaces. And I ended up finding myself doing really, really harmful things to try and lighten my skin. Firstly, I went through the normal remedies first, the lemon juice, a bit of turmeric, and a bit of yogurt. You do that and you put on your face the mask. That didn't work out. I then moved to trying to use tomato juice. So apparently tomato juice was supposed to lighten my skin. I don't know how. And that didn't work out. And I believe the last thing that I resorted to was trying to get the chemicals that would have lightened my skin in isiZulu says carrots, like something into a little season carrots. And I thought that would help me out, and it almost burnt my skin. And I think for me that was when I said enough is enough. I need to be able to take pride in who I am, and I need to be able to stand up and show young people who want people to look up to that it is possible. Your skin is definitely who you are, you can't change that. And shortly after that, I was mocked because which are triangle marks on my face. And one very, very vivid moment, I was in a car, and this really young girl looked at me and said to me, "Yo, if I ever had to come across whoever did that to your face, I wish I could kill them." And I'm like, "Well, what do they do? Like, she doesn't know, meaning, they really just destroyed your beauty. You'd be very beautiful without them." So now, here I am trying to figure out how can I remove these trauma marks, because now I want to be beautiful. And nothing worked as well, and I found my belonging when I stepped into a space of comfort and a space of understanding that land Kumakona is definitely what's going to take me to where I want to go to. Once you stand in your truth and you stand in who you are, you'll definitely be able to step into the rooms that you believe did not step into. So I found myself in pageantry, and I tried out Miss Amakuku, which was in grade 11. When I did that, I placed first runner-up. Now imagine this, I'm coming from a background of even thinking that I'm supposed to be a boy because I was a tomboy, due to the fact that I looked like my father more than anything, and my siblings who are females, they light skinned, so I said, okay, Shaq, okay, she's in very cheetah. And I was playing a lot of sports as well, so I traded my soccer boots for heels. And when I did that pageant, I remember right at the end, it was my very first pageant, right at the end, one of the judges came up to me and said, "Oh, Eslianda, one day you'll be Miss South Africa, you must try it out." I said, "No, I don't think so. I don't think I'll ever be Miss South Africa. I don't think I look like anybody who's ever stepped on that platform." And I did pageantry, grade 11, didn't do anything, and then one day I was just sitting and Miss South Africa's entries opened up in 2022. When that happened, I was 20 years old, and I said, "Yeah, this is my chance. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'll try it out. I don't trust myself, but I'll do it." And I entered Miss Africa in 2022 as just a 20-year-old, and I stepped into the competition as the youngest as well. I went to the top 30. I said, "Yeah, in the top 30, Mama, I don't know, this is a giant mind." And I got it only because he couldn't use badge, and I was very proud of who I was in terms of my language. Because my father did this thing of making sure that the minute that I step away from those school grounds and I go home, I don't speak English. I need to speak isiZulu ekhaya. And the minute that he heard me speaking English, oh my word, I sound like them because my English was yet not refined. I felt like sometimes people think I'm ghetto because when I do my interviews, that was when projects became a thing for the first time. I'll speak this is with it now and then I put it in, which is no, that's not a time to get Nandi. And then people you know, you know, and every now and then I just throw in my vernacular language in because for me that's a sense of pride. For me that's a sense of identity and belonging in the African continent. You know, so I went up to being in the top 10, and at that time I was strongly advocating for gender-based violence. And till this day I still do. However, when I was advocating for gender-based violence, I was coming up with the problem every time I was asked about it. You know, how I didn't have the solutions. Every time I was asked, okay, but Yolanda, what is your solution to gender-based violence? And I still didn't have the answer for that. And the reason why for me, I strongly advocate for gender-based violence is also because at some point I did experience a bit of that in a relationship that I was in. And Mama, wait for so that for me was something really close to my heart. However, I didn't know how to tackle it because I'm just a 20-year-old. So what do you know about the issues of gender-based violence and the issues that are faced by women as a 20-year-old? How do you come up with solutions for such a hectic and very, very heavy topic in South Africa? So also because I was scared to own my true identity of being a creative, I thought that I had to advocate for something that society wanted me to advocate for because I strongly believe that being a creative was seen as something very mediocre. Being an actress was seen as something that you cannot stand on such a powerful platform and advocate for. You need to be a woman of substance, and for me, as a person who's studying creativity, who's studying live performance, who's majoring in that degree, I felt like I needed something that would give me more weight. I needed something that would make me sound more serious, you know? And unfortunately, because I wasn't true to who I was, I didn't place too far, because even when I would be asked, like I said about the solutions, I didn't have them. I went back home and I revisited who I really was, you know, and I found myself being in one of South Africa's greatest shows after I obtained my degree, which was Shaka Ilembe, and I starred as Rihanna for season 2. I had to look back and say, if it wasn't for my dad trying to preserve my language, I would not be on the show. Because that show needs you to be truly grounded in who you are. It needs you to be truly grounded in Ulim Lagini. When it was bad, it was 10, it was Mukiba. In as much as we do have language advisors there, but if you are never proud of where you come from, you will never be able to stand on that set and be able to tell a story of such a profound and powerful king who shaped the narrative of Amazulu, who shaped the narrative of the Nguni tribes. You know, so how do I carry that pride without even being proud of who I am? And because of my father, I can proudly say, if I'm in a room and I have to switch between interviews, but journalists will not journalists because Nazazi was mobile. And if we're not tail, we will ask journalists or if we need subtitles, read them.
Come on.
You know? Because in Africa we do this thing which for me kind of sort of baffles me. You know, when I entered Miss Charm, I did Miss Charm as well. When I entered Miss Charm, when I went overseas, I heard people from different countries speaking. And when I say 90% of them do not even really know English, I mean it. But no one mocked them. Come to Africa, and someone tries to pronounce an English word and they can't. Oh my goodness, you're a laughing stock. People think you're not intelligent. People think you don't know anything about this world because you just don't sound smart enough. But who said the African language is not smart enough? Who said the African language is not eloquent enough to stand in rooms and be able to take out a message that everybody's supposed to listen to and understand? I started embracing weaves. Yesterday I got a weave, but when I stepped away and I realized that, you know, the richness of our hairstyles as well from the show that I was on is beautiful. I started embracing that even more because guess what? Our hair is not ghetto. Our hair is a form of art that we all need to celebrate. And only till this day, I am only able to celebrate my true identity because Africa is moving in that space. ready to stand up in society and say, we are here and you must know who we are because we are creators. There's nothing that really just, this might be a bad word, but irritated me so much when I watched the film and they had to get Americans to tell the African story. When the Africans on the soil who have told that story very beautifully. When the Africans on the soil who have been able to pronounce the simple Xhosa language that they were trying to interpret, but because African creativity is not celebrated enough, we were not put in those casting groups to be able to represent our own continent. But I think it's time that Africa is able to step into these spaces and claim our own stories and claim who we are so that the world can understand who we are. And not then coming here and saying, oh, so he hasn't had lions roaming around. Of course not. Of course we don't have lions roaming around. But then, anyways, let me continue before, because the story is long. So, and when I move on and I talk about, my mission, when I reflect on my own mission, one truth that becomes impossible to ignore is that talent is everywhere, but opportunity is not. Across South Africa and across the continent, young people carry extraordinary creative potential, yet so many of them remain excluded from the very economy their gifts could transform. The numbers alone tell the story. In South Africa, the unemployment rate of young people aged from 15 to 24 is 62.4%. This means that more than half of our youth are locked out of economic participation, not because they lack the ability, but because they lack the access. And the painful irony in this is that we have the talent, we have the imagination, but what we don't have are systems that recognize creativity as a legitimate economic force. So when we look at this, too many young people, or too many young creatives lack mentorship, funding, business knowledge, protection, and platforms to express and monetize their work. We've watched brilliant artists lose their way, not because their talents failed them, but because the industry failed to support them. But the world is changing and we can change with it. We can see that our industry are shaping into STEM to STEAM. I don't know if many people know this, but from what I remember very correctly, STEM is science, technology, and just quickly forward to this, sorry. So when you look at STEM, so STEM adding arts to science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, because the innovation about creativity is incomplete, because ideas need imagination, because stories shape societies, and creativity is not just an expression. Creativity is leadership, creativity is innovation, and creativity is an economy. This is why my mission is deeply, really personal. I want to align marginalized communities with the opportunities that I never had. And when I say this, it's because when I was starting or trying to step into this industry, the more that I knocked on doors, the more I'd be told you don't have enough experience to do it. The more I knocked on doors and asked for funding, I'd be told you'll mismanage the funds because you don't have enough experience to do it. But the truth of the matter is we're not given the opportunities to be able to even get that industry experience that we need. So the more that we sit back and we don't align our youth with the right opportunities for them to be able to scale out their talent and scale out what they could be in this creative economy, unfortunately, we'll keep on recycling the old narrative of what creativity is really supposed to be in the creative economy, sorry. So I want to make the creative economy accessible, understandable, and empowering for every young person who feels unseen or unheard. And more importantly, I want to build something tangible, something that lives beyond words. My dream is to transform Lens Media into a fully fledged youth hub, a place where young creatives and young Africans can create, learn, collaborate, and tell stories that shape the continent's narrative. A space where our people tell African stories the right way, through our eyes, our experiences, and our own brilliance. A place where the next generation of filmmakers, dancers, writers, producers, and digital storytellers can build not just their talent, but their careers. Because when young people are given a chance to create, they do not just inspire, they build industries, they transform economies, and they change nations. The mission matters not because it's just about the art, but it's about the access, the representation, and the future of Africa. So when you look at the creative economy, we can easily say the creative economy is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. Yet despite all of this potential, 2 million people, especially here in Africa, remain shut out of very, very important opportunities that could change their lives. The global creative economy is worth trillions, and Africa, with the youngest population on the planet, holds an unmatched reservoir of creativity, innovation, and raw talent. But creativity doesn't only live in isolation. Every creative project is an ecosystem, a network of writers, designers, technicians, choreographers, photographers, videographers, producers, and many other entrepreneurs. But every performance or artwork is an entire value chain, ready to grow, ready to employ, and ready to transform communities. When we invest in the structure that supplies creativity, infrastructure's funding, training, protective policies, and meaningful partnerships, we can elevate art from a passion into a sustainable, thriving industry. This is how we'll unlock Africa's creative power, and this is how we'll move potential to prosperity. Young people are now the architects. Young people are no longer waiting for permission to lead. They are leading already. Across Africa, they are carving out their own stories, creating their own platforms, and building their own audiences. We've seen this very beautifully, especially on a very popular digital platform called TikTok. I think I spend most of my time on TikTok more than watching television because those young creatives put in the time, because they're trying to ensure that at least they can get their stories across to make their own income. But unfortunately, TikTok still does not pay Africa their creation fee, but other countries are getting paid to be creators on TikTok. And then we wonder, why is Africa being left out of this creative economy? Why are we not being included in this creative economy? That's another conversation that we need to be able to visit, because when you look at the views that can be on TikTok, some of the streaming platforms don't even really give these creatives the same number that these creatives can even get. We starting to see people with 15 million views, you know that some Netflix shows might not even get 15 million views or whatever the case is, but there are creators who are ready to get stories out there, who are ready to create and create jobs. I mean, the show that I was on was able to create over 20,000 jobs. Now imagine if you could be able to take young people to work together, to build something together, and be able to employ each other within that space. How much we could actually be able to do if we just open up the industry to young creatives, open up the industry and the minds of young people, especially those who are marginalized, because I kid you not, there's probably a lot of untapped talent that's sitting there, however, they're just not given the right opportunities. So, my call to reimagining Africa together. As we reimagine Africa, let us anchor ourselves in a few undeniable truths. Creativity is leadership. Representation and economic power and youth-driven art is transformation. My story is a reflection of what becomes possible when a young person discovers the strength of their own voice, and a reminder of how easy that voice could be, or could be lost without the support. So let's work together to build an Africa where creativity is not underestimated, but understood, where it is not dismissed, but invested in, where it is not seen as a hobby, but recognized as a powerful force that shapes industries, identities, and nations. Let us build a continent where every person knows they belong, knows they matter, and knows their voice holds the power to influence economies and shift the world. Africa is not waiting to be imagined. Africa is already being created boldly, beautifully, unapologetically by its youth. And as we step into the future, let's remember this: creativity won't just inspire us, it will employ us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Luyanda, for that powerful talk. If messing up your surname is the price I pay for noticing your beauty, I'd say it's worth it. I apologize, Luyanda Zuma. She is available on Instagram. Her handle is Millen_Leno. You can follow her just to check more of her work. So it's that time where we head over to our panel discussion, session 1, and then we'll quickly cut for a break. To guide this panel discussion, I have our moderator, our skilled moderator, who's going to guide the discussion. Please put your hands together for Nomomi Jongweni. And the speakers who will be joining us is Sibo Muteiwa, Vivian Lokele, Apia Nyasha, and last but not least, Dahafa Habulile. Please make your way to the stage. Right, good luck, ladies. Thank you so much. And just to give you the topic that they'll be covering, it is called Youth, Innovation, and Continental Economic Growth.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Dumelang, bonjour, hello, salam, masikati, sanbonani, and a warm welcome to all the dignitaries, leaders, pioneers, industry pioneers we are gathered with today. My name is Ambassador Dr. Nowomi Chongweni. I'm the founder of the Nowomi Foundation. As an organization, we work towards building sustainability in our communities and creating a culture and sort of reigniting a culture of Ubuntu, which we find have noticed has been lost amongst our communities. And we strive towards empowering and uplifting the youth in our communities. And so I am particularly excited to see, some of the ladies that are on our panel, because I think we share visions, we share values, and I think it's going to be a learning moment, not just for myself, but for everyone in the room. And so before we proceed with the panel, I'm going to allow the ladies to introduce themselves and briefly tell us, about the work that they do, the impactful, momentous work that they do, which has led them to being in the same room with us today, and then we'll dive into our questions as prepared. Thank you. And so I don't know how we're going to work with this, ladies. If you'll pass the mic to one another as we proceed. But I'll start off with Ms. Vivian Mogome, and if you can briefly introduce yourself, tell us a bit about the work that you do, and we'll proceed with questions as we dive into the session.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Vivian Mogome. I am the founder and the designer of a company called Dignity Organic Sanitary Napkin. What we do is that we design and develop organic and biodegradable sanitary napkin across the African continent. I've been designing these sanitary napkins since 2018, and my organization and my team, we've been donating these sanitary napkins to schools across South Africa. Yeah, so that's basically what we do. The vision remains that no girl child in South Africa should ever miss a day in school because they don't have access to good quality sanitary napkin. So that's what we do. That's what we're all about. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dafa Habulile from Namibia, an African child. I am the CEO of Samurai Investment and Consultancy. What we do is economic diplomacy, and we helped by connecting the 3P, the 2Ps, people and profit. So what we do is being a bridge between the private sector and the public sector, and making everybody understand the role of government. That government in its natural setup, they are given the mandate by the people. And if you want to serve the people, you need to see how you can work together with those that are given the mandate, regardless of your opinion, whether they were given the power rightly or wrongly. so understanding the role of how we can all coexist in our collective responsibility. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Dumelan, Likai, Salubonani. My name is Afia Nesham Salingana. I'm the Deputy SADC Youth Leader and also representing Asia and Africa. But since what fell on Madagascar, the acting SADC Youth Leader until South Africa takes over. I'm also the founder of Concord for Young Women in Business Global, which is a women for women empowerment organization that is globally. So we focus on making sure that women, young girls are empowered in all sectors, bringing in innovation ideas, training in ICT, gold training, smart climate agriculture, as well education within the financial capacity and funding them in their various businesses. So we've been being very supported by our founding country, Zimbabwe government entities. So we work very closely with each women desk in each ministry to make sure that our programs and projects are governed, they are approved, and it's easy for young women to be empowered and aided within the policies and also participate in the political or decision-making board. Within my capacity as the SADC Youth Leader, I'm making sure that the industry and trading theme for entrepreneurs is workable for all young people. And we are also focusing within the tourism sector and bringing markets to entrepreneurs across globe, networking and connections. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for our panelists, our ladies, please. And although, I would love to keep the panel to just us women in true girl power essence, I am informed that we're going to have to add another one of our speakers to our panel. And so, ladies and gentlemen, you can give me a round of applause as we welcome Ambassador Regan Shole to the stage, please. And to be fair to all our panelists, we will invite Ambassador Regan to introduce himself and tell us briefly as well about his work and just delve into the kind of work that he does, leading him to being one of us here today. If we can also invite Ambassador Regan's interpreter to the stage to assist with interpretation for Ambassador, please. A round of applause for him as well. If you can please invite Ambassador to introduce himself, please.
On vous demander de vous introduire.
Merci. Bonjour tout le monde.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much.
Je suis ambassadeur Regan Shole,
I'm Ambassador Regan Shole,
diplomate,
a diplomat,
chef de mission diplomatique de la RDC,
the chief of the diplomatic system of the DRC,
au Bureau de coopération économique de la RDC et le pays des Golfe.
at the Bureau of Economical
Le pays des Golfe. Les Gulf countries. Yeah. Alors je suis très content de me retrouver parmi vous.
I'm very happy to find myself amongst you.
J'ai salué l'initiative et j'ai salué l'organisateur principal de cet événement, le docteur Denissa.
I greet the initiative and I greet Dr. Denisha.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. introductions is that our panelists are very much involved with the youth and in understanding, how important it is for our nations to thrive, for our African continent to thrive. We do need to involve the youth. We do need to be cognizant of the issues that the youth faces. We need to also realize the potential that they hold and the power that they hold to drive a different narrative and to bring about change and to eventually lead us to the Africa that we want. And so I'm going to dive right in, and I'll start particularly with Ambassador Regan. How would you say you prepare young people for future leadership roles, particularly concerning fostering relationships with leaders from different countries?
Comment vous pouvez dire nous ajouter à la croissance de la jeunesse, surtout concernant au niveau des relations avec d'autres pays?
En fait, la préparation de la jeunesse africaine aujourd'hui,
The preparation of the African youth of today,
c'est un axe prioritaire.
it is very prioritary.
Parce qu'au départ de l'héritage de nos alliés, de nos ancêtres,
Because from the going forth from our ancestors,
nous, l'actuelle génération, nous avons la mission, c'est pas le devoir,
our actual generation has the homework
de préparer, n'est-ce pas, également les générations futures.
to prepare the coming generation.
Quand on parle de génération future, c'est pas l'année prochaine, c'est cette génération.
When we speak about the future generation, it's not the future, but it's this generation.
Nous qui sommes dans cette salle,
Us that are in this hall,
qui portons des missions pour l'intérêt de l'Afrique,
that carry the mission of the interests of Africa,
nous sommes appelés à cette préparation immédiate.
we are called to this immediate preparation.
Alors cette préparation, moi je le résume dans deux axes.
So I will resume this in two acts.
Il y a ce qu'on appelle l'exposition internationale,
There is what we call international
ou
exposition,
la mise en valeur des profils africains.
so that we put in value the African profile.
Chers camarades africains,
To African friends,
aujourd'hui il est plus qu'important
today it is most important
de mettre en valeur des figures africaines qui se démarquent dans plusieurs domaines.
to put in value African figures that explore in different domains.
C'est une manière pour nous de préparer cette génération.
It is a way of us to prepare this generation.
L'Amérique parle de ses héros,
That America
l'Asie parle de ses héros, de ses génies, de ses vaillants.
America speaks of their values and their strengths.
Lorsqu'il s'agit de l'Afrique,
But when it comes to Africa,
personne n'en parle.
no one speaks about this.
Combien de jeunes Africains détiennent des potentiels énormes aujourd'hui?
How many Africans carry enormous potential?
Mais combien de jeunes Africains nous nous connaissons?
But how many of us know each other?
Celui qui a inventé Microsoft, nous le connaissons.
We all know the ones who created Microsoft.
Celui qui a inventé le robot roulage, c'est un Congolais, personne n'en parle de lui.
And the person who created that robot that runs is a Congolese, but no African speaks of
Vous
it.
savez pourquoi?
But do you know why?
Parce qu'au niveau de la préparation, l'Afrique ne met pas en valeur ses propres fils et ses propres filles.
Because in the level of preparation, Africa does not put forward its strengths.
Et on avait une discussion privée entre les délégations qui sont arrivées.
We had a private conversation with the delegation that had arrived.
J'ai parlé à une dame, c'est Madame Bota de la salle.
I was speaking to Mrs. Botale, but she's not here in the hall.
Elle me parlait de ses réalisations. Elle a réalisé un chiffre record dans la commercialisation du pétrole. J'ai dit waouh.
She made an enormous impression on the production of petrol, and I said, wow.
Mais si vous demandez même 10 Sud-Africains ici,
But even if you could ask 10 South Africans right
peut-être
now,
8 ne connaissent pas cette dame.
maybe 8 do not even know of this woman.
Pourquoi?
Why?
Parce qu'on ne parle pas de nôtre.
Because we do not speak of our own.
Nous voulons d'une Afrique éveillée.
We want an awakened Africa.
Commençons par vendre le nôtre,
Let us begin by selling ourselves,
nos enfants,
our children,
nos produits,
our products,
ce qui sort de l'Afrique.
what comes out of Africa.
Vous imaginez jusqu'au jour d'aujourd'hui, nous consommons Coca-Cola.
Could you imagine that till this day we still consume
Qu'est-ce qu'on
Coca-Cola?
veut nous faire croire? Qu'il n'y a aucun Africain qui peut lancer un produit qui va rivaliser Coca-Cola?
What do they want us to believe? That there is no African car?
C'est nous qui parlons Coca-Cola, n'a qu'à me parler.
Do you think that Africans cannot create a product that can make rivalry with Coca-Cola? And I'm not against Coca-Cola. But we are talking about putting African values forward.
C'est la clé de la formation, c'est la clé de la préparation des jeunesses qui va dérouler les choses.
And that is the preparation of the youth that will make things run.
Le deuxième axe,
And the second
pour
act,
utiliser la parole,
to pass forward the word,
c'est la formation stratégique.
it is a strategic formation.
Ça aussi, au niveau de la formation, il y a un bon réel.
That also comes to the level of eating and drinking.
Jusqu'au jour d'aujourd'hui,
Do you know up till this day,
dans certaines universités et écoles en Afrique,
in certain universities in Africa,
on nous enseigne encore le nom de fleuve,
they still teach us names of rivers,
s'il vous plaît.
please.
Pendant que le monde parle de la technologie,
While the world is talking about evolving
on
technology,
nous enseigne l'histoire de Général de Gaulle.
they are teaching us stuff about our riverbanks and so on.
Pendant que l'histoire parle, pendant qu'on parle de la technologie, des créations, des innovations,
While they're speaking about creation,
dans nos
innovation,
universités,
in our universities,
on nous enseigne
we are being taught
Christophe Colomb,
about Christophe Colomb.
s'il vous plaît,
Please,
s'il vous plaît,
please, people.
s'il vous plaît.
I say please.
C'est pas logique ça.
That is illogical.
Aujourd'hui, avec la technologie, on peut connaître tout sans aller à l'université.
Today with technology, we can know everything without having a university degree.
Mais comment on passe notre temps pour aller à l'université? On nous enseigne les noms de fleuves.
But why do we spend time going to a university and
Qu'est-ce que
learning
cette
about
information peut développer dans nos vies et au niveau de l'Afrique?
how would that develop anything in our lives and at the
J'ai
level
fait
of
un
Africa?
effort dans ma vie.
And I've made an effort in my life,
D'oublier la mathématique,
firstly to forget mathematics,
d'oublier tout ce qu'on nous a enseigné à l'école en termes de l'histoire.
and
J'ai fait
forget
l'effort.
everything that we learned in history and that
Si vous me
in
demandez
high
qui a
school.
découvert l'Afrique d'ici, je ne connais pas.
If you ask me who discovered South Africa, I do not know.
Non, je ne connais pas.
No, I seriously
Je
do
vous
not
dis
know.
la vérité.
And I tell you
Si
the
vous me
truth.
demandez qui a découvert l'Amérique, je ne connais
If
pas.
you ask me who created America, I do not know his name, and I made an effort
D'oublier ce nom.
to forget his name
C'est pas normal.
because it is abnormal.
C'est pas normal.
It is abnormal.
Aujourd'hui, il faut centrer nos énergies
Today we need to set our energy
à la préparation stratégique,
in a strategic preparation
à la formation stratégique.
to prepare to create information.
Formons-nous, équipons-nous autrement.
Let us equip ourselves in another way.
Chacun de nous détient un potentiel naturel.
Each of us carries a natural potential,
L'Afrique a besoin de ça.
and Africa needs those potential.
L'Afrique a besoin de ça.
Africa needs those
On
potential.
a besoin de ces potentiels.
We need those potentials
Développer ces potentiels.
to develop those potential,
Développer ces capacités internes que nous détenons.
to develop this intentional
Enfin,
capacity
de
that we
rendre
hold in life,
l'Afrique que nous voulons.
for us to create the Africa we
Pas
want,
un discours,
not in discussion,
mais une réalité.
but in reality.
Chacun de nous va développer l'Afrique dans son domaine.
Everyone will develop an Africa in their own
Mike
specific
Tyson
domain.
est devenu millionnaire. Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson became a millionaire,
Non parce qu'il savait beaucoup écrire,
not because he knew how to write a
mais
lot,
parce qu'il boxe les gens.
but because he beats people.
Lionel Messi,
Messi,
millionnaire.
a millionaire,
Non, Lionel Messi ne chante pas.
but he does not sing,
Il joue au foot.
he just plays football.
Chacun de nous
And each of
a un
us
domaine
has a
qui peut
specific domain
développer
that they
et
can
faire bouger les choses sur
develop
l'Afrique.
and make things move
On
in
peut faire
Africa.
des débats sur Cristiano Ronaldo.
Instead of making debates on Ronaldo,
Parlons du docteur Luboni.
let's speak about Dr. Lebomi.
Parlons de notre Miss.
Let's speak about our Miss
Parlons de
Africa, South
Madame
Africa.
Lila.
Let's
Quelle
speak about Miss
plaisir
Malika.
de dire ici.
There are so many figures here.
Comprenez que chacun de nous
You need to understand that each
va
of us
développer l'Afrique
has to develop Africa
dans son domaine.
in their own domain.
Identifier ce qu'on a comme potentiel.
Identify what we have as potential,
Former les jeunes dans ce sens.
form the young people in
Et
that
on
way,
aura l'Afrique que nous voulons.
and we will have the Africa we want.
Je vous remercie.
I thank you so much.
Absolutely correct. A loaded response, an insightful response, and it got me thinking. You touched on innovation, you touched on upliftment, you touched on preparation where our youth is concerned. You touched on celebrating their strengths. You touched on the importance of competence. And it brings me to, in my line of work through philanthropy, I've come to realize that particularly with working with children, no two children are the same. And previously, I've noticed how, as individuals, as society, we celebrate the skill set of individuals and we neglect the mindset that is necessary for one to achieve their goals, right? And I think Dr. Vivian, you are within the same kind of industry as myself with regards to philanthropy. And my question to you is, just if you could share your views and opinions on the importance of uplifting our youth, particularly where their mindset is concerned, because if you are going to take your time to tend to their needs, to look after them, to make sure that they are fed, to make sure that a girl child has sanitary pads, which we find so often affects, the day-to-day, how they show up in school. How important is it that as a nation we look into that, and what approaches do you think can be done, in using collaboration as well? Collaboratively, as organizations, as individuals, what can we do to continue to support, to uplift, to empower our youth, particularly focusing on their mindset, because we sort of have figured that the skill set aspect is covered because there's a systematic way in which kids grow. But in terms of their mindset, what can we do collaboratively to empower them?
Thank you so much, Doc. That's a very important question and an interesting one. A sanitary pad is something that many you'll think is just a simple product that a girl child needs. But many of us do not know the impact that will have in terms of the social being of a girl child. I normally like using my story. I'm now age 40 plus. But I remember when I was age of 15, my mom gave me a cloth to use because she could not afford to buy me a proper sanitary pad. So she just gave me a cloth to use. So as a young girl, I trusted what my mom said. I used that cloth, But the cloth was not safe enough for me. What happened during my break, it fell, and I was in the midst of my classmate. I didn't know whether I should go back and pick it up or what must I do, because it's my pad, I'm now 40. I still remember that day like it happened yesterday. It affected my confidence. It affected my learning ability. Till today I still think about it. Now, this is a question that I have and I still have today. Is it because as Africans we do not value the life of a girl child or of a woman, to a point where when we talk about sanitary pads, nobody cares to ask the right questions, such as what happens or what goes into the manufacturing process of these products that we give to our children? Or have we reached to a point where, because it's a reproductive system of a woman that is affected, nobody cares? How do you learn, how do you concentrate in a class when you have to worry about something that happens to you naturally? As a woman, I do not ask to go on my period. It happens to me naturally. So just think about it, Doc. You are in a class. You have to concentrate, and at the same time, you have to worry about something that happens to you naturally. West Park, you don't even have the right product. In South Africa alone, which is considered to be the America of Africa, we still have girls that are missing 3 months of their schooling because they don't have access to good quality beds. Not even good quality beds, but normal substandard sanitary beds. Now what happens to the future of a girl child if they miss 3 months of their schooling because they don't have beds? What happens to that? Who cares? Is it because it's affecting a girl child? Let me say this, not even a girl child, but a black girl child. I've never seen an organization going to white dominated schools to donate pads, but I've seen white NGO companies coming to black schools in township donating pads for our children. Dr. Danisa, we are all sitting in this room. Someone in America or in Europe is coming to Africa to donate sanitary pads to our children. What happened to Ubuntu? What happens to the saying that it takes a nation to build a child? I grew up in the dusty street of Social Movie, where I knew when there was no sugar at home, my neighbor will give me a sugar. There will be that barter exchange that was happening. Why don't we do the same thing with sanitary pads? Why are we allowing our children not to go to school because they don't have pads? To answer your question, it will take collaboration. I don't understand. I find it difficult when a woman who is in a position of power and who knows the stats that I've already mentioned that in South Africa, I'm talking about South Africa, I'm not even talking about the entire African continent, South Africa, where our girls, where 72% of girls are still missing schools because they don't have pads. Then we have women who are sitting in position of power and influence. They're doing nothing about it. To answer your question, I'll say those women who are in position of power, who are in politics, who are in leadership, and municipalities that are doing business with government, a portion of their profit, of their proceeds should go towards ensuring that a sanitary pad becomes available. In 2025 and beyond, Dr. Denisa, we can no longer be talking about pure poverty in Africa. It doesn't make sense. Something has to give. It has to give. We need to start valuing our women. And we can't just give them a pad, but it must be organic, biodegradable. It must be a pad that is good to their reproductive system. It can't just be anything. I mean, there was a woman who came to me and said, because they come from a poor background, we need to give them cloth so that we don't have to keep on spending money every month. And I said to her, just because they are poor, it doesn't mean we need to take away the only thing that they have, which is their dignity. If it's not good for me, then it's not good for the next person. And if it's not good for my daughter, then it's not good for the girl in Moleji, in Bobo. We need to mean business now when it comes to our girl child. If it's not a good sanitary napkin, Dr. Denisa, ma'am, then it's not good for our children. And we have to mean it, and it takes collaboration. I challenge women here in position of power and influence. Think of that girl child. You are a woman. Think of that girl child. Go and check the stats. It's shocking. Our girls are entering into wrong relationships because of something that happens to them naturally, which is menstruation. No one wakes up and says, I want to go on my period. It's something that happens naturally. Therefore, it's not their fault that they should miss school because they don't have pads. Everybody's affected. You are affected, sir. One way or the other, you have a wife, you have a sister, you have a daughter. Everybody, it's everyone's problems. You know, so yeah, it will take everyone in this room. This is the Africa I want. This is the Africa that I dream of, where we won't have to sit in this room and talk about pure poverty, where we won't have to sit in this room and say there's a girl child in Limpopo who's not going to school because they don't have pads. The Africa that I have, it will be the Africa that says when government is not passing the bill that says pads must be free, and we saying as a woman, those who are in position of power will make sure that our children, they have access to good quality pads. That's my contribution to this.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vivian. I felt touched by your response because truly it affects everyone, and I want to commend you for the work that you do. And I think it is a call to action for all of us. It is a call to action to support Dr. Vivian and the likes who are playing such a pivotal but often neglected and sort of like sidelined role in impacting the way that our children show up, how our girl children show up. And so this is also an opportunity and a challenge to each and everyone in this room. Get in contact with someone like Dr. Vivian, she's here today, to see how we can support her, to see how we can empower her, to see how we can continue to inadvertently also empower the girl child. And so, in light of all the good work that the likes of Dr. Vivian do, we cannot continue to speak of the good and speak of all the impactful work that we do without realizing that It is challenging, it is draining work, and it requires effort, it requires funding, it requires heart, it requires intentionality, and it requires truth, it requires honesty, and honesty as well, particularly in also the challenges that individuals face in the work that they do. And so up here, my question would be to you, that, you know, in the challenges that you face in supporting and empowering young people, particularly also those with disabilities, what gaps exist in the work that you do, and how can we better support you? How can the systems and the powers that be support you?
Thank you for the question. As an organization that empower women, firstly, we face the challenge to actually call the disabled, or we call them persons living with disability, to be able to take part in organizations, mandate, or programs. Why? Because they are either born or they grow up with the mentality that they are already left behind and there is nothing for them. And when they take part, they leave the room maybe with hope, but they end up losing that hope because it ends up just being speeches and talking, and then it ends there. So we need government entities, which I understand in each and every country we have the ministry that represents the disability, to start actioning and making sure that those people are looked after. After the talk, after the strategies, after putting policies together for persons living with disability, what actions have we done to make sure that we have delivered our promises to them? Because as Doc was saying that things that happen naturally, we can't control, and they need our support. So me, I would say that when nature calls, all of us are disturbed by it, because it is nature. So these people are either born with a disability, or maybe they face a health problem, or maybe it's something that happens when they grow up because of health issues. But then, when we call them to come in a room and we give them hope and speeches, I think government entities must now start actioning and making sure that they benefit. I understand that in South Africa every month there is a fund that benefits people living with disability, which I think is one action that the country have managed to do well. But in Zimbabwe, we have also, under the Ministry of Disability, able to bring in equipment, or I say things that the persons living with disability they will need. But as organizations, we have faced a lot of challenges, and the help that we will need is to be added in the policies that have to see with people living with disability. Because when organizations that run or work hand in hand or every day with these people, or organizations that also take care of persons living with disability, or those that we have deaf hearing, are not looked after or added within the policies of government, we tend then to be left behind, because we will not be funded enough, we will not have the capacity to do it. But also, I think within the region, we must unite, put hands together, be able to connect organization to organizations, and see how we can come up with a solution that will be actioned to make sure that everybody is looked after and an action has been put out there. And one thing I also see that is lacking when it comes to persons living with disabilities, information. There's no information especially for them. And identification of making sure that where are they supposed to go, a direction of where are they supposed to go, who are they supposed to see. So I would encourage every organizations like mine to make sure that they put the information there and that they make sure that those people are included within their media or technology that they use to make sure when information is put out there, it gets to them, it gets to the right people. And also there are those people that their full-time work, it could be a mother, it could be a sister, their full-time work is to take care of people living with disability. We need to make sure that also those people are concluded. Inclusivity of them is very important, especially when we are making policies within our government entities or organizations, because they cannot do another work or they are not capacitated to do anything. They have to look after them full time. And I also call for events like this to include interpretation, so that, you know, online when the deaf people are watching, they also understand what is happening. Because today we are talking about them, the people living with disability. But when there is no interpretation for them to understand in the language what is being discussed, they are then already left out. Thank you.
Thank you, Elvia. Your response speaks to the limitation of one's potential and the challenges that hinder one's potential. And so, Ndahafa, to you, I want to bring it to your line of work. But I still want to address or sort of keep in mind the youth. And so my question to you would be, how can African nations harness the potential of the very large youth population that we've got to drive sustainable economic development?
No, thank you very much. Yes, I think a lot of our African leaders are trying, and I would like to actually touch on the conversation that happened in the morning. We had a very fruitful keynote address which outlined actually where we are or how nations are trying, and we had here the first runner-up of Miss South Africa who even brought in the element of the creative industry. And keeping in line with the theme, which is that Africa we want sustainable development and everyone's responsibility. I think that everyone's responsibility includes ourselves, and being given a platform makes us all our leaders in collective, in our respective communities. And we need to clearly also understand that it takes a village to raise a community. Villages are made out of homes. Home makes up a community. Communities make up regions or blocks, which makes up a country. And then the countries make up a continent. With that in mind, then means that if we don't have stable homes, we don't have stable communities. And if we don't have stable communities, we don't have a stable country. Now, as leaders, of course, we give them powers, and there's so many. Every country has beautiful policies. We are having we are having the AU with the regional bodies. We are having all these other conferences and declaration after declaration. We are all signatory to this treaty and that treaty. But then what brings those things to life is how we put them. And we can only sustain things through proper system by realizing that for something to be sustainable, there has to be a routine of how things are done. There has to be a system that recognizes merits. There has to be a system that rewards excellency. And there has to be a system that ensures that information reaches everyone. Now, we are talking about education and how our education system, of course, there's a lot of gaps, a lot can be done, but we can all agree that most of us in these rooms are from these countries we are from the African countries. I think there are 18 countries here, and we all emerge to be somebody. Now, what we then need to do is how do we ensure that everybody has the same access to the same resources? How do we ensure that those of us that have been able to reach a certain level go back to the community that we left behind? Because what I realized with our policies in our countries and our institutions that we create a very big bottleneck. And I have to speak about my situation. I am from a very traditional home where you know, we were raised that you have a bed, you have a home, you are not homeless, so you need to be satisfied with what you have. So we're not privileged where charity was never a case. Also, you can't get assistance because there's somebody who doesn't have shoes. So for you that have something to eat and is able to go to school, you need to do what you have. So that system in itself for me, I would like to say privilege because it taught me to stand up and do something. Because on my case, help never came, you know. And growing up in the youth structure, I was also in the leadership of the youth league. And looking at myself, I don't seem to fit the normal decorum of how a youth leader should look like. And then that already also made me to push myself because I don't have, you know, my hair is natural like this, but I don't that. To most people it's not natural, so I don't fit the trend. So if we are constantly going to look for things that don't qualify us, we will find. Because as much as we are trying to unite ourselves now the he, she is coming, I don't fit this gender, I'm a A+ or Q+, or I'm not part of that. So there's so many things that keep us apart. But if we take ownership in terms of making sure that everybody has access, and when we look about sustainability, it's not just about resources, it's also about how are we accounting for what we have, the space that we get in our respective communities, in our respective organizations. How do we maximize what we have? How do we add value to that what we have? And how do we ensure that it passes on to the next person? And while we are waiting for somebody to assist with giving a sanitary pad to one person, how am I, who is having a domestic worker in my house, ensuring that that domestic worker is well paid, that she's able to afford a sanitary pad for her own daughter, right? And then how am I ensuring that those ones that are working in my organization, even though they are volunteers, that the leftovers that I get eating at my home, I'm able to bring that person who doesn't come, who doesn't have food, who is not getting a salary, but I have a leftover. So when we're talking about collective responsibility, young people, I'm looking at it from the context of being a young person myself and looking at our collective challenges and how we forming a chain, how me holding the one next to me holds the other one will eventually reach up to the village where I came from. Because coming now, this is December, everybody comes from somewhere. And we are humans, we are not chicken. You know, as a chicken, there's an egg, it's left there, you don't know, maybe you know it can be left there. But us as humans, we come from a umbilical cord. A child required to be breastfed. So we are fortunate that there is already a systematic, you know, biological clock that ties us together. So it's now for us who manage to live, to come from our community, to go back, re-educate ourselves, and then collectively from the street that holds our leaders accountable. And when we speak about government, we need to realize the government is the people. And we cannot weigh governance the way that we are doing now. I remember having worked for government in a government office. When the leaders go to our respective communities, people prepare, they clean up because the minister is coming or the head of person is coming. So they don't give a true reflection of what is happening on the ground. The leadership go with a misrepresentation of the reality on the ground, which then hinders development. So by collective action means that when you cover up the challenges on the ground because you want to sound politically correct, you are also hindering development. And speaking truth to power is one way of us solving the problem, and not cooking statistic because we want to be seen that we are doing the job, or we want everything to look good. Because tomorrow we are going to say the ANC is not working or this party is not working. But when they came to the ground to do the feasibility studies, or when they came to do everything looks fine. So when the person is sitting in parliament and they say we have provided the service, they are speaking from the truth that you presented as a community leader or as an organization leader to say, I got this money, I empowered how many people, but in reality, it's all keyboard data that we are delivering. So I'm really, really in agreement with this thing, that sustainable development also requires us as individuals, as head of organization, private companies, government representatives, to be accountable with the little that we have in our small sectors, so that the chain gets enlarged, and as we grow together.
Thank you. Apia, I want to come back to you. Ndahafa spoke of growth. She spoke of collective responsibility, and that would ultimately and ideally lead to collective prosperity. How would you say growth can be made more inclusive, ensuring that the benefits of innovation and economic development, economic progress are shared across the continent?
Thank you for the question. I don't know if I'm being biased, but I think inclusivity is already there. Inclusivity for the youth and women empowerment has always been there, has always been put light down right on the table. My question will be, are the youth and women making themselves available to those policies, to those connections, to avail themselves to be empowered, to grab the opportunities that are being put across for them? Madam Ndahafa mentioned something, saying at first that, the government is trying, the ruling party are trying to make sure that they visit districts, regions, provinces, and connecting themselves as a government entity to the people that they are supposed to empower. But to answer your question, to say how that could happen, I think programs like this can assist us in making sure that we are identified as individuals in our own capacity, and that growth will happen when we make sure that we attend and we answer the calls of this kind of programs. And we are able to connect among each other, because in this room there are various people from various countries and continents that could be beneficial to us. Let's talk about Dr. She's doing, she was talking of a pet drive. If it's not working right here in South Africa, how does she make it grow? We are now going to Ambassador in Ghana. We are now looking at Congo. We are now looking at Zimbabwe. How can we collaborate together and make sure that we grow? That's how we can connect. So I encourage all the women, and especially the youth, to make themselves available. Attend this event, answer to the call, don't be left behind. Thank you.
It brings me to my next question. When we speak of regional and international cohesion, we speak of sharing responsibility across the continent. It speaks to relationships, it speaks to nurturing those relationships, but naturally, we are humans, we are individuals, and we don't always, to put it simply, we don't always see eye to eye. And so our nations will also, find themselves in tensions. And so my question is to Ambassador Regan. Take us through how you are able to maintain and manage your confidence with strategic partners across different nations amidst
bilateral tensions.
Montrez-nous comment vous maintenez vos relations avec d'autres pays ou d'autres partenaires malgré les tensions.
Merci pour la question.
Thank you for the question.
J'aurais bien voulu comprendre ce que les autres co-panélistes disent,
I would have really loved to hear what the other panelists were saying,
mais malheureusement, mon anglais ne me permet pas.
but unfortunately my English does not permit me.
Je vais me ranger à la prochaine édition au Congo.
I will make sure in the next program in Congo
On parlera uniquement en français.
that we will only speak in French.
Donc il est temps pour vous d'aller apprendre le
So
français.
it's time for you to go and learn French.
Merci pour la question.
Thank you for the question.
Alors, comment savoir comment maintenir des relations diplomatiques malgré les tensions?
How do we maintain diplomatic relationships despite
Je
tensions?
réponds sur 3 axes, vite fait pour gagner le temps.
I'll respond in 3 acts quickly to gain time.
La première des choses, ce n'est pas de personnaliser les conflits politiques.
The first thing is not to personalize conflicts.
Ça fait plusieurs décennies que mon pays a des conflits directs avec le Rwanda.
It's been many years that my country has direct personal conflicts with the Rwandans.
Mes meilleurs amis
But the best friend,
sont de Rwanda.
my best friends are Rwandan people.
Sont de Rwanda. Donc, j'ai rien à voir avec le peuple rwandais.
I have nothing to do with the Rwandan people.
Les conflits politiques et diplomatiques sont passagers.
Political conflicts just pass by.
Ce qui nous garde,
What keeps us,
ce qui nous permet de développer vraiment l'Afrique que nous voulons,
what really helps us develop the Africa we desire,
c'est de nous placer au-delà des conflits politiques et diplomatiques.
is to put ourselves above diplomatic and political conflicts.
Donc, j'exhorte nos camarades africains qui sont dans cette salle.
So I'd like to exalt my African friends that are here.
Je sais que plusieurs pays africains aujourd'hui sont dans des conflits.
I know that many African countries today are in conflicts,
Mettez-vous au-dessus des conflits.
but put yourselves above those conflicts.
Travaillez pour que ces conflits passent.
Work that those conflicts may just pass by.
L'Afrique que nous voulons ne va jamais se réaliser si l'Afrique n'est pas un.
The problems we have in Africa will never grow if Africa is not united as one.
L'unité africaine passe au-dessus de tout.
African unity goes above everything else.
Et autre chose, c'est la communication transparente, la sincérité dans nos relations.
Another thing is sincerity and transparency in our relationships.
Moi, je garde des relations très sincères avec des pays où mon pays m'a envoyé.
I keep very sincere relationships with countries that my country sends me to.
Je mets en valeur et je mets en avant les intérêts de mon pays.
I put forward the interest of my country,
Mais aussi, je me mets à la place des pays qui garantissent les intérêts de mon pays.
but I also put myself at the place of the countries that guarantee the profit of my country.
Personne ne manipule l'autre.
No one manipulates the other.
Mais au sein de nos relations africaines, parlons-en,
But in the center of our African relationship, let's talk about it.
il n'y a aucune sincérité.
There is no sincerity.
Permettez-moi de taquiner mes amis de l'Angola.
Allow me to joke a bit with my friends from Angola.
Vous savez que l'Angola et la RDC ont comme frontière l'espace terrestre.
Do you know that Angola and DRC have as a border a terrestrial land?
C'est moins de 1 km. Une fois, vous êtes en Angola.
It is just 1 kilometer and 1 foot you are in Angola.
Mais pour que les Angolais ou les Congolais accèdent dans le pays, ils ont besoin de visa.
But for Angolians and Congolese to go into each other's country, they need a visa.
C'est pas normal.
And that is abnormal.
C'est pas normal.
It is abnormal.
Comment nous voulons le développement de l'Afrique avec... c'est pas normal.
How do you want to develop Africa like that?
Aujourd'hui,
It is abnormal.
j'ai un passeport français, je vais en Serbie sans visa.
Today I can go to Serbia without having a visa.
Mais comment nous qui avons des frontières une minute, je suis en Angola, mais on m'exige des visas.
But how do we as Africans have as borders only a minute away, but we are expected to have
Qu'est-ce
visas?
qu'on a peur?
What are we afraid
On
of?
a peur que l'Angola soit envahi par les Congolais.
Are we afraid that Angola would be invaded by the Congolese?
On a peur que le Congo soit envahi par les Angolais.
Or are we afraid that Congo will be invaded by Angola?
L'Afrique ne va jamais se développer.
But Africa will never develop like that.
Qui a déjà été au Luxembourg?
And who has ever been in Luxembourg?
Au Luxembourg,
In Luxembourg,
les 40% de cette population sont des étrangers.
40% of that population
Ah,
are
Luxembourg,
foreigners.
c'est encore loin. Prenons le cas de Dubaï. Tout le monde, je pense, qu'il a été déjà une fois.
That's a bit far. Let's take the case of Dubai. I believe everyone here has
Est-ce que
heard
vous savez
Dubai.
que 90% des gens qui se trouvent à Dubaï ne sont pas émiratis?
Do you know that 90% of the people that find themselves in Dubai are not Emirates?
La ville de Dubaï est composée de 90% des étrangers.
The city of Dubai is filled with 90% of
Pourtant,
foreign
Dubaï
foreigners.
se développe chaque jour.
And yet Dubai keeps developing each day.
Pendant que Dubaï met en place des taxis volants,
While Dubai puts in place taxis,
nous au Congo, nous en Afrique,
us here in Africa,
nous avons encore des problèmes de construire des routes.
we still have problems of even building the roads that will fit those
Avec
taxis.
l'intégration, ils se développent.
With integration, they develop
Nous, avec
themselves.
la privation, on s'appauvrit.
As with privation, we become more poor.
Il est temps de construire des relations
It is time
saines.
to create sincere relationships.
Alors pour clore, pour finir,
To close,
il y a l'espace au partenariat gagnant-gagnant pour maintenir des relations diplomatiques avec d'autres pays.
there is a part of a relationship where each party wins to keep
Très
relationships.
important de maintenir des relations gagnant-gagnant. L'Afrique est fatiguée d'être exploitée.
Africa is tired of being continuously exploited.
Aujourd'hui, l'Afrique ne court derrière personne.
Today, Africa runs behind nobody.
L'Afrique propose.
Africa just proposes
L'Afrique discute
and they discuss
ses intérêts
its interests
dans toute légalité,
in every legality,
dans toute honnêteté.
in every honesty.
Nous ne voulons plus de partenariats qui exposent, qui exploitent l'Afrique.
We do not want partners that expose and exploit Africa.
Ah, mais ça aussi,
Oh, but this as well.
il faut que la mentalité change.
Mentality has to
Je
change.
vais vous raconter une histoire.
I'll just tell you a very short story.
Je suis en Chine avec notre chef de l'État, notre président de la République.
I'm in China with the president of our country,
Il y avait un sommet Chine-Afrique.
and there was a summit of China and
Donc
Africa.
la Chine en elle-même invite toute l'Afrique.
So China in its own invites the entire African continent.
Pourquoi?
Why?
Pour nous présenter les opportunités.
To present to us opportunities.
Ok, la première journée, nous voici, conférence, nanani.
Okay, this is the first day, the conference and so on,
Et puis ils nous montrent des opportunités.
and they show us these opportunities.
Je pose la question à notre président de la République pendant le dîner.
And during the dinner, I asked the president of the country a
Je
question.
dis, Excellence,
I say, Mr. Excellence,
qu'est-ce qu'on nous a présenté ici?
what have they presented to us here?
J'ai vu des machines,
I saw machines,
j'ai vu des arts,
I saw people,
mais le matière qui sert à la fabrication de ces machines
but then the material that fabricates these machines
provient de l'Afrique.
come from us in Africa.
Mais toute l'Afrique s'est mobilisée
But the entire Africa is mobilized
pour aller en Chine,
to go to China
découvrir des
to
opportunités.
discover opportunities.
Donc ces appareils ont été fabriqués par nos matières.
While their materials were created with our
Mais avec cette
foundation.
mentalité, l'Afrique ne va jamais se
With that
développer.
type of mentality, Africa will never develop itself. Never.
Quand est-ce qu'on aura un sommet Afrique du Sud, Europe?
When else will we have a summit of South Africa and Europe?
Quand est-ce qu'on aura un sommet RDC, Europe?
When will we have a summit of DRC and Europe?
Et on a des sommets Turquie, Afrique.
But we have a lot of summits of Turkey
Et
and
tous
Africa.
nos présidents partent là-bas.
And all our presidents rush there.
Dites avec moi, ça doit cesser.
Say after me, this has to change.
Dites avec moi, ça doit cesser.
Can you just say after me, this has to
Moi, je
change?
crois à cette nouvelle génération, il faut changer les choses.
Because I believe this generation has to change things.
À la prochaine fois, on n'ira plus.
And the next time we will not go.
Nous voulons réunir le monde ici.
We want to reunite the world here with
L'Afrique
us.
du Sud a des minéraux que l'Europe n'a pas.
South Africa has minerals that Europe does not have.
La RDC a des minéraux que l'Europe n'a pas.
The DRC has minerals that USA does not
Comment on peut
have.
aller courir derrière les
So how can we run behind their
Ça n'a
backs?
pas de sens.
And that does not make any sense.
Alors, il ne faut pas oublier les partenariats gagnant-gagnant pour développer l'Afrique.
So let's not forget relationships that both
Une
parties win.
communication sincère entre nous-mêmes, pays africains,
And sincere communication between us as African countries.
et aussi ne pas personnaliser les conflits.
And not to personalize our conflicts.
Voilà trois axes
Those are the three acts
qui facilitent le maintien des relations diplomatiques à des intérêts justes.
that will keep and maintain international relationships at a just and fair level.
Remercie.
I thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Now, Laf, I'm going to come back to you. Ambassador touched on, exploitation, but, in line with answering my question, I think it was across nations. I want to individualize my question and maybe also give you the opportunity in your response to also broaden your response in keeping with different nations and dealing with different nations. How does your mission at SAMRA support small micro enterprises in accessing international markets?
Thank you very much. By pushing collaboration, And I have to be very honest here, I don't focus in small. Because if you are small, it means that you must find somebody else who's small next to you and find another small person, and then you collaborate. And I really like the point that Ambassador made there, because I think our historical context of coming from aid and our mentality we are somehow struggling to translate, moving from a socialist mindset of our African culture to a capitalist mindset in which the world is currently operating, or the mixed economy, whatever they want to call it, but it's capitalist in nature. Because that mentality then makes us approach economical discussion with a socialist or a communistic mindset, expecting others to have as much good intentions as we have, and that if we are small, there's some kind of bitterness that will come with people hating us because, oh, we are small, we are new, we are growing, we are development. On the economical scale, it doesn't work like that, and that's why events like this for me are very important, because it's now where I, small Samra, meet Afia, meet Doctor, and then we come together, we find something that then has some sort of capacity that's able to compete. So small business need to realize that alone you can't do anything. Individual, this thing of founder, this, yes, there's glory that you started something, but it cannot just, later it must be our corporate, it need to be a limited, a PTY, you know, even in terms of business registration. I think South Africa has done away with sole traders and the CC. They've now moved the PTYs and limited only, because that's recognizing the power. And I think also being in this country, I need to also honor it again with the G20. Again, what Ambassador is speaking to, that we need sometimes to say yes and no when it's necessary, because unity of purpose as Africa is very important. And now in the G20 way, we as a small African country, one country from Africa representing all of us, for me it was a very good, firstly I saw internal unity among South Africans, I saw unities among African, and I'm from Namibia. We are not part of the G20, but we were honored that our president was invited to be there. That shows a sense of solidarity. Now we need now the courage to act in a place where when we see that our needs are not taken into account or our voice is being undermined, then we say, I can sit this one out. I'll wait for next time. That is where our power starts. And it starts by somebody like me who runs a economic diplomatic organization. Is me realizing that I cannot leave that to government, because I've been in offices of government, I've been in a government employee. I see where the gap is, and sometimes what is politically correct is something that there are policies, there are guidelines on how you need to behave. That's why there's a diplomat. You know, you see how he's speaking and how I'm speaking, we are different. I can speak in a way that he can't speak, right? Because immediately when he speaks, it's attributed to DRC said, right? So us knowing which platform to use when and how we can then leverage on each other's power, where I can then go in the room, speak as a unaccountable diplomat, because that's basically what it is where I'm able to push the interests of my government. It's a lobbyist group, because how we are treated is that in Western countries, they what we call lobbyist organization. In Africa, when you try to lobby for a certain interest, you are corrupt, right? So we also help assist that narrative wrongly. So we need to see how do we then push our African agendas, how do we push our interests, because when it comes to economy, there is no young people, there is no women, there is money, there is value. So how do we as Africans, whether you are youth, whether you are an elder, whether you are a woman, how do we position ourselves that we add value and we are able to compete internationally? Because with this integration that we are pushing now, the AU and the African Continental Free Trade Area, there is also what we call the right of origins, right? So now if you don't produce anything, somebody is going to come from where they are coming from. They are just relocating their country and putting it in your premises. They come with their whole thing. They are going to do what they call, and it's what I'm noticing now. 99 years lease, 99 years lease. They are setting up everything, they are creating everything, everything is going out. Yes, you don't even get skill transfer, because what they do is they are coming with expert. And the only skill transfer is cleaning. So, and drivers. So your people, we learn to be more cleaners, we clean more efficiently, and we clean, because the employment that we get is supposed to be, when a foreign company comes in your country, you're supposed to transfer knowledge, you're supposed to transfer skill, you're supposed to add value. But what I'm seeing now is reverse colonialism. And this is also attributed that we have created this big divide, that there is, NGOs, there is private sector, public sector, but when we realize that organization like mine can also help, you can leverage on what government is doing and get into blind spot where they are not able to get. Because if we stand up here and we are lobbying to say, no, Africa is going to do A, B, and C, people will listen to us, and tomorrow something can take place. But if a country stand up here and say that, then you are violating the Geneva Convention. There's so much protocol that already bind us. And unfortunately for democracy and for the global world, we need to sign to this for the cohesion, but we need to be strategic on how we improve, how we implement what we do it. And that means we need to apply guerrilla tactics. We need to go back to us from the former liberation movement. We need to adapt some of those tactics that as much as we have political power, the economical power we don't have. So we need to integrate our young people who are just the creative industry like the Miss here. And I'm really happy that at this event that we are having this topic, we are also having the creative industry. These people are doing TikTok. We then empower them and ensure that there is synergy between their language, control our narrative, and remember that as long as you pass the border of your country, you are a diplomat. How you behave, what you do, it's labeled on how your country people are perceived, how your continent people are perceived. So let's become individual ambassador, and let's change our narrative of Africa. That even if I have an issue with my leaders, I maintain it in the home. When I come there, let me find my mother at home, but when I'm going out there, my mom is the best thing, she's my role model. But at home, I'm like, why is this woman waking me up? If we have that same mindset when we go outside in our individual things and not pointing fingers to our own government, I think we are one step there.
Thank you for that, Ndahafo. And so I could sit here and pick your brains all day, but in cognizance of time, I do want to, before we round off and finish and close off the session, I do want to open up the floor to questions, and please ask questions. And so ladies and gentlemen, you are more than welcome, and this is an invitation to all of you to ask questions and pick the brains of our panelists, please. Do we have someone who can, on the floor, to assist with the mic, please?
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, my question, should I call it a question? I wouldn't call it a question. Rather, I want to challenge. What is challenge the status quo? Thank God we are here discussing the Africa we want. While our brother from TRC Congo was talking, a lot of things he was talking about motivated my mind, pricked my mind, that yes, the Africa we want. Thank God this program is live streamed, and the content of this program will also go far and wide. I want to address the African Union. I'm an African man. I'm a Nigerian. A proud one at that. If truly the leadership of the African Union are serious with the Africa we want agenda, with Agenda 2033 currently being championed, I think they should try as much as possible to do the right thing. Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, is the headquarters of the African Union. And the African Union is pushing a united Africa with the headquarters of the African Union in Addis Ababa. And yet, me as a Nigerian, I need a visa to visit Ethiopia is an error. Do you believe that? So the African Union leadership should start the mission and the advocacy of the United States of Africa by first of all abolishing visa to Ethiopia being the headquarters of the African Union. Thank you very much.
Yes. We will take another question.
Just a request to the floor, translator, if you can just help us with the rotation of the microphone, please. I don't have a question, but a quick comment, and I would like to start by thanking you for such an amazing session that is just moderated. Doc, you are spot on, the girl child. And my sister from Zimbabwe, there is a collaboration in terms of collaboration. I know Lindy Pass, there's quite a number of products that are coming up in South Africa. We have our CSI initiative, our CSI wing, MMF, Mulabumati Foundation, launched over almost 10 years ago. And our focus is the girl child. And when we started facilitating scholarships for girls to go study, whether it's intercontinental or outside, one of the programs that we have is menstruation. And we came up with a word called dawa. That's a Swahili word that means remedy. I'm a farm girl from the Free State, very proud, and I have a similar story as yours in regards to the cloth. And out of this room and part of the resolution, somebody on the floor said, can we not just speak? And in my opener, I also said, it's going to take intention. We have more than enough of us, Doc, in this country alone to reach out to Namibia, to reach out to Zimbabwe. Within SADC alone, your product and Lindy and other producers or manufacturers, once you collaborate, we are then able to create possibly a bigger fund that can speak to more distribution and get the products in retail. But for people like us that are seated here, Dr. Temerson, Dr. Tabo, Dr. Denise, and a whole lot of us, we do have access to funders or maybe some resources. But what we need is the actualization of collaboration. We can no longer do things in silos. So my challenge to you is that as you leave here, your first duty to make sure that this goes forward, collaborate with other manufacturers. Let us solidify and put the girl child first. In closing, there's an Indian actress who said, and it's adults in the room, sex is his choice, menstruation is not. In South Africa, in public schools, in airports, we find condoms everywhere. It's part of the responsibility, true, but so is the girl child. In closing, thank you so much, Excellency, or my representation diplomat from DRC. One of the things that you spoke about is inclusion, but I'd like to challenge the males in the room. Can inclusion of men be activated within the conversation of menstrual hygiene? We still shy away from it. Dr. Tabo, commending you, you spoke quickly about not only being dependent on government, but starting to find our solution. We talk about the PPP. In this regard, it is time. Both the private sector with platforms like yours, Doctor there, our sister seated from Zimbabwe, our diplomat, and everybody in this room, we can utilize this platform to start moving this product within the AFCFTA, the Free Africa Trade. But again, I go to what I said as I close. It's going to take intention, no more just talking, no more show, and no more playing around if you want to change the status quo. It's up to us. Be the change you want to see.
Thank you very much. You know, when you mentioned the issue of menstruation and the pads, it just reminded me of something that my daughter did. Now, my daughter runs what do they call a YouTube channel. It is called The B Word. Right. You can just go through, and especially for the younger ladies, and subscribe and support. But that she did there was she ran one of the topics that she dealt with was was included the menstruation, and now she did something very interesting because it highlighted a bigger issue, which I think you are actually intimating right now, is how many men actually know anything about menstruation and pads. You know, the way her approach was, she took myself and my two sons, and she actually did a show on that, where she was asking us questions about, what is this? She would hold up a pad, she would hold up tampons and all the different types and everything else. And okay, I was a bit advantaged because I kind of know these things. But it was interesting that my sons, they were struggling. And even when you read in the comments, they were having some serious issues because they really do not understand about this particular topic. And all I'm saying is that, because I heard you also talking a lot about women in the room, obviously from the perspective that they've been through similar, so they will much more identify with it. But I think it's also very important that as part of the messaging, that we actually bring, because in a lot of cases, men tend to be the purse holders, especially in government. We need to bring them on board and make sure that they understand the importance, because for as long as they are distant to the issue, they will not be able to appreciate the need for this as much as the need that you call it. Because this is very critical. So please try, and as we message, and we will try as well, to bring men into this topic. And it will be quite important. You'll be surprised the level of ignorance. Thank you.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, we could sit here all day, each other's brains all day, but in cognizance of time, we do need to round up our session. And so I do want to start off by thanking our panelists. I think we all share the same sentiments when I say what impactful conversations or powerful conversations. I think we all leave here with better insights. We all leave here with calls to action about what we need to do next, and challenges on what we can do to help one another, to uplift one another, and to continue supporting one another. So we reconvene, in the following years with updates and reviews of what we have done and how we have held each other up. And so, key highlights from the session is collaboration. Collaboration. Ndahafu said that, government is people. We are the government. And so it is up to us to inform, to uphold, and to reinforce the systems that will inform how we get to the Africa that we want. And so, having said that, I do want to thank our panelists once again. I want to thank you for your engagement as well again. And I will hand over to our MC. But before I do that, I also do want to thank you for the opportunity of moderating this session. It has been a pleasure, and I leave here better informed and I think a better leader that will contribute to our society as well with your wisdom shared. And so I'll hand over to our MC to guide us to our next item for the day. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Round of applause for our panelists as we leave the stage, please.
Let's make some noise for our moderator and our wonderful speakers. Come on, give them a round of applause.
hold on for us. Hold on. Hello. It's done so they can come forward now. Shoot like this. You're not the only one shooting. Sorry. Are you done? So you can, others can take.
Blown away by the amount of knowledge shared today. A huge thank you to our incredible speakers for generously sharing their insights and expertise. We're going to take a little break. I mean, it was a couple of hours ago when we started the lecture, so now we get into the session one. Please make sure that you take something to do outside. Stretch those legs because we'll be back in the next few minutes to continue for the session two. Thank you so much. We'll see you in session two.
But it's not that bad. Or it's fun. It's dope shit though. Yeah. You can never go wrong with that ending, bro. Outdoor shoots. When, like, during the day, you see that blue skyline. that shit is gone. I keep my shit fresh all the time. Every day I'm like scrubbing that shit out. You gotta know the stage of life here.
when I watch later tonight. Yes, you need a flexion. I just want to ask her for the money rather because that we can save the money. Just so we put this. Okay, let's just put everything here. Right now, and then the recycle time when it takes too many weeks, it takes long to reload the car. Yeah. And then now people are looking at you and then they're smiling and then now you also have to smile.
Oh, I hate that shit. I've seen it happen so many times before.
That's what the guy was fast, bro. like yeah.
Nothing on his shit. Nothing on his. I've done that shit where I act like I took a picture and I know I didn't do shit.
I almost died, bro. The funny thing, you just keep on doing this with your fingers so that people just see this motion and then they're shooting their head like,
yeah, they're like, you're good.
Oh, yes, legend. You haven't seen the light, but he's the professional.
He knows what he's doing.
overstepping.
What?
You understand? I'll be overstepping.
No, you can just ask.
I told you.
Yeah, last night I was chilling. They sent me this.
Watching yourself.
I wasn't even the one watching it. Someone sent it to me. Yep.
Zenze. Why did you give me?
Let me first check this bad boys.
Alright.
Just set up for me, like here, so we can have those flags in the back.
In the background, yeah? On top of the stage.
Yeah.
I've got to move this baby here.
No, we're going to set up here.
The music. Lower.
No, off completely. We're going to do interviews. Yeah, thank you. We're going to do interviews.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so the class will be like here.
All right. The right one.
Thank you. All right here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Set up lighting. Just ask these guys when they come to take the stuff. Just ask them. Just leave that.
All right.
I'm taking, maybe you can put on the Where's the couch?
They moved it. They're taking all the couches. They're moving all of it.
my battery is going to die. My phone battery, it's fine.
Let me give Michelle phone. But hey.
How long is the interview?
Yeah, so but you can feel free to express
Okay, okay. Okay. Go ekran in this clip. Ke fufuletse or ke sharp ke tse powder. Ke sharp I shine. Okay.
Too late.
Oh, early. Okay, it's Babu Ngabeke.
Don't go on. But
Oh,
I
you-
look like
Okay, let's say white rona ibile elo sana.
Then I can fit in there. But I'm from the top now.
Go for the number that can get
Yeah, yeah, okay. Fine. Just okay.
Malay. Hi. White is I show. No, the cook for the carrot.
Yeah. In the table, you have to move it. Yeah. You have to
Cook for the cake it's a howl.
Okay.
Say some,
Hi. Can you hear me?
No levels at all. You can think I'm a bit as a bit.
Okay. In the match.
just check it for me there.
See levels, yeah. You can see them?
Is it fine?
Yes.
Is it fine now? You can hear me? Okay.
Talking to me, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, not to tell it na hene. You'll be looking straight at me.
Shabani Lwen.
Eh, utashabana. Shabane mahlo.
Ditaba di mahlong.
Tawari mo mahlo. Hey. Alright, how are you, man?
I'm good in you.
I'm very well, thanks. Can you please introduce yourself, tell us who you are, what is it that you do, and then if you want to do it all in one go, you can tell us about today's conference and a little reflection about what you think about.
Hi. Alright, hi, Vivian Mukomi from the west of Johannesburg. I am the CEO of a company called Dignity Organic Sanitaries, where we design and develop organic biodegradable sanitary napkins. And I'm here at this iconic event as one of the speakers. Yeah, happy to be here.
Okay. How do you feel about how the session went?
What do I feel about?
How the session went?
It went well. I'm glad I was part of the panelists and being here as well and interacting with powerful women across the African continent. It doesn't get better than that, you know. It's part of networking and sharing ideas as to how better way of ending 2025 than this one. So yeah, I'm excited and I'm happy as part of this event.
Beautiful, beautiful. For an initiative like this, what do you see in the future? Yeah.
I expect more of this, you know, seeing more of this happening. I mean, it's one of the forums where Africans are brought together in one room, where we discuss the challenges, not only the challenges as well as the solution. How can we take Africa forward? And what stood out for me with this event is the topic. I mean, the Africa dream, and only Africans, you know, can build Africa, and only Africans can find solutions for Africa. Only Africans can save Africa.
That's it. Number one. Beautiful stuff.
All right.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Ricky.
It was so
Okay.
That's why. Yo. I bought this camera when the Netflix 2 was really out. I'm like, why? That extra money. Why? This is it's low. That's literally the same fucking thing. The only difference it has this shit movement. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Yes, let's move everything. Because, yeah. Well, this was a dope interview. So, how are you doing with the batteries?